This is page 221. This will be part 1. This video will cover numbers 7 through 12, and then the next video, or 2, it might be 3 videos, will cover the next few pages. Alright, so it says find the percent of each number. So the first thing we need to recognize is there's different methods on how to solve these. And in fact, I'm going to use different methods based on the numbers. But I will show you one way you can always solve problems like this. If you know the number of tiles and you know the percent, you can simply multiply the percent as a decimal by the number. For example, number 7 you could set up as 75 times 0.64. If you multiply that correctly and move the decimal and place it in the right spot, you can get the right answer. So based on that line of thinking, you could do number 8 the same way. You could do 70 times 0.20. And I probably will solve it that way, but then I'm going to show you maybe a simpler way to do 8. I can pretty much do 8 mentally. I could do 9 mentally. For number 9, you could do 25 times 0.32. So this method works for numbers 1 through 6, and if you don't want to know any other methods, that's fine. But I'm going to show you some mental math ways. Okay, so let's go back to number 7 and just multiply carefully. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 2 is 28, plus 2 is 30. I'm in the tens place here, so I need to annex a 0 as a placeholder. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 7 is 42, plus 3 is 45. I get 0, 0, 8, 4, and move my decimal 1, 2 places, 1, 2 places. The answer is 48 tiles. 64% of 75 tiles is 48 tiles. Number 8, I do the same thing. There's a lot of zeros here. And in fact, you could actually ignore the zeros. You could do 2 times 7 is 14. Annex each of those zeros. You get 0, 0. And then move the decimal over twice. 1, 2, 1, 2. You get 14. 14 plants. I'm going to show you a different method here real quick. It's called the 10% method. Okay, so a different way to solve a problem that looks like number 8 is called the 10% method. So pay attention to this, because it could save you some trouble on problems like this. 10% of any number is just a tenth. Since 10% equals a tenth of something, watch how easy this is. So 10% of 70 is a tenth of 70. And a tenth of 70 is 7. And that's kind of the cool thing about these problems is really if it's a number that's a multiple of 10, you just take the 0 off. It's really simple. 10% of 70 is 7. Now if you're thinking, well, Mr. Smith, the problem doesn't ask for 10%, it asks for 20%. I know. And what I know is that if 10% of 70 is 7, 20% has to be double. Double 7 would be 14. And that's the answer. Remember I said up here the answer is 14? This is a mental math way of getting that one. Alright, let me show you the mental math way of getting number 9. Well, let's do it this way first. Let's go ahead and multiply, because I'm going to show you the consistent way. This multiplication right here works every time. 2 times 5 is 10. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Annex a 0 as my placeholder. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And you get 0, 10, looks like 800, but it's actually going to be 8. 8 pages. Now, let's pretend I punched this into a calculator. I want you to see what I punch in carefully. I'm going to take this number right here and I'm going to punch it in as 0.32. I'm going to punch this in as 25. So watch what I punch in. 0.32 times 25. You get 8. Okay, good. I got the right answer. Pay attention to what I punched in. Now what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to pretend I messed this part up right here, and I'm going to punch in 25% as a decimal times 32. Now I know those are the same numbers. I need to clear that because I didn't do it right. 0.25 times 32. I punched in 25 as a decimal and I punched in 32 as a whole number, but watch what I get. I get 8. So what you can conclude there is that 25%, I'm going to actually rewrite it this way. Here's what you can conclude. 32% of 25 is equal to 25% of 32. They're both equal to 8, both of them. Since they're equal to each other, what you can do is you can try to solve this mentally. Here's what I mean. 25% is the same as a fourth. Well, a fourth of 32 is just taking 32 and dividing by 4. A fourth of 32 is 32 divided by 4 is 8. So that one might not be as obvious, but what you could notice on problems like this is, hey, I'm pretty good at 25% because that's just a quarter of things. If you can find a fourth of things, then it's pretty simple. All right, let's move on to the next set of 3. And all of these 3 problems, 10 through 12, I'm probably going to solve using multiplication. The 10% method doesn't work super good on these. It will on 12, kind of. I'll probably use it on 12. Number 10, simply put, I'm going to do multiplication. I'm going to do 0.85 times 40. Number 11, I'm going to do 350 times 0.72. And this 0 right here I can basically ignore because 0 times all these numbers are zeros. I'm going to start right here with multiplying. I'm in the tens place, so I have to place a placeholder. 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 8 is 32. Plus 2 is 34. And move your decimal. Well, it's going to be 3,400 until I place my decimal over 1, 2 places. 1, 2 places. The answer is 34 emails. Number 11, I'm going to multiply again. 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 5 is 10, 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. Place a 0, 7 times 0 is 0, 7 times 5 is 35, 7 times 3 is 21, plus 3 is 24. 0, 0, 12, 5, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 252. Now I know this is right because I've checked it before, but I'm going to go ahead and show you. If you ever have a big computation and you want to check your answer, you can just simply multiply 0.72 times 350 is 252. Alright, so I showed you the 10% method on one of the previous problems. I think I could use the 10% method here as well. 10% method means you find 10% of your number, which is 220. And that's the same thing as a tenth. A tenth of 220 is dividing by 10, you get 22. And how does 5% compare to 10%? Well, 5% is exactly half of 10%. So, and I accidentally wrote 200, I need to make it 220. So what you notice here is that this is half. If you notice this is half, all you have to do is find half of 22. Half of 22 is 11, that makes this the answer. The answer is 11. You could check that if you wanted to by doing 220 times, and we're not going to punch in 0.5 because 5% is the same as 500. It's 0.05. You get 11. Okay. Good job. That is the first part of page 221. You can go to the next video to work on the rest of the page.